Erev Tov Rabotai, we're continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Demai. We're up to Perek Zayin Mishnah Vav. We're coming towards the end of Masechet Demai. The rest of the Perek and Masechet is going to deal with the designation of tithes for tevel produce. We spoke about in chapter 5 that a person can separate tithes from one batch of tevel on behalf of another batch of tevel, as long as they both share the same tithing obligation, meaning they're both tevel or they're both demai from the same amaretz. You can't do from different amaretzot, because maybe one of the amaretzot did tithe it. If they are not the same status, same obligation, tithing from one on behalf of the other will not work. It will not become tithed, and the produce which you tithed it for is going to remain tevel. The Mishnah now is going to deal with somebody who has two baskets of tevel, and he wants to designate tithes from one basket for the other. If someone has in front of him two baskets of tevel, the Amar, and he said, Ma'asrut zu bazu, the tithes for this first basket are designated in the second basket. Harishonah meuseret. So the Mishnah says the fruit in the first basket is tithed, because since the fruit in both baskets are tevel, when you designate fruit in the second basket as teruman masrut for the first basket, that is effective. All the fruits in the first basket can now be eaten. Now the Mefarshim point out, even though you didn't physically separate the teruman masel fruits from the rest of the second basket, the designation takes effect immediately, and it allows him to eat the fruits in the first basket, like we learned in previous Mishnayot. However, he is not allowed to eat the fruits in the second basket since he didn't tithe it yet. So when he wants to eat the fruits in the second basket, he's going to have to separate two sets of tithes, its own plus for the first basket. Now, since he didn't specify where in the second basket the ma'asrot for the first basket are going to take effect, the designation only works to birera, which is the retroactive clarification. Later on, when he separates the necessary tithes, the number of fruits for ma'asrot from the other basket, those are retroactively going to be determined that to be the ma'asel fruits that he designated originally, like we learned again in Mishnah Daled. The Mishnah now is going to give a little more complicated case. Shel zu bazu v'shel zu bazu. Let's say he said the tithes of the first basket are designated in the second basket, and the tithes of the second basket are designated in the first basket. He says basket A's tithes are in basket B, and basket B tithes are in basket A. The Mishnah says Harishonah meuseret. Only the fruit of the first basket is tithed, but the fruit in the second basket remains tevel, because as soon as he said that the first basket's fruits are in the second basket, the first basket's tithes are in the second basket's produce, the fruit in the first basket became meusar and became permitted to eat. Now, since it's no longer tevel, you cannot use its fruits as ma'asrot for the second basket. Why? Because we learned that something that is not subject, something that's not in the rules of the tithing obligation, cannot be designated as ma'asrot for something that is, right? We learned en mafrishin mina patur ala chiyuv. You cannot separate from the exempt on the obligated. What happened here? The first part of your declaration worked, because you said, I want the ma'asrot from the first basket for the first basket to be in the second basket. So that took effect right away, and the first basket is tithed and became permitted to eat. But the second part of your statement, that you want the second basket's fruits to be in the first basket, that does not work. It remains tevel, because since the first basket was already exempted, you cannot use its produce to redeem the second basket. This follows the view of Rabbi Meir, who says, we're going to see in Masechet Terumot, Perek Mishnah Daled, that when a person makes two declarations together, and the second one contradicts the first one, we will follow his first declaration. That's what we know as Tafos Lashon Rishon. We grab the first statement. Now, in order to fix the fruit in the second basket, he's going to have to separate from it both its own masrot and the first basket's masrot, like in the previous case of the Mishnah. The third case, the Mishnah says, Masroten, Masrot Kalkala Bechavarta, a little interesting case. He said the tithes for these two baskets are going to be in one basket. Now, Karashem, he designated the tithes for one basket and the other, and now he's able to separate tithes from both baskets from whichever one he chooses. And the Mefarshim explain, basically a statement is like this: the tithes for one basket are designated in whichever basket I want. What did he do? When he chooses one basket for separating tithes, the other basket became permitted immediately. Now he has to separate both sets of tithes from the basket he chose to permit its fruit. Basically, we're again using the concept of birera, not only to determine which fruits are in the masrot, but which basket they are in. He made it catch in one shot. That is the second explanation of the Rab, which he writes, Perush Acher Beikar, that this is the main Explanation, he says, Masroten, Masrot Kalkala Bechavorta, Kar Hashem Matlish Mezemet Shirtze, you can separate from whichever basket you want. Dachim Mefarshin and Anulte, because this is how we explain his words. Masroten Mezemet Shirtze, you Masrot Kalkala Bechavorta. The Maasel, for one for its friend, is going to be in whichever basket I want. That is in Rabotai of Mishnah Vav. Mishnah Zayin's a little long. It's the second last Mishnah in the Masechet, but it's a little long, so you're gonna have to bear with me. Again, the Mishnah here is going to be very cryptic. That's why a lot of Mefarshim have to go out to explain many different ways to read the Mishnah. But again, we're going to follow the way the Art Scroll explains it in the Elucidated. Now, Rabotai, what's the background for this Mishnah? The Mishnah is going to discuss 3 cases regarding produce that's either tevel, maaser rishon, or chulin, which is tied produce. They became mixed with one another in equal amounts. Because later we're going to speak about when they're unequal. But right now we're speaking about equal amounts. So the Mishnah is going to tell us how can you fix these mixtures in order to use them. Now, the Chachamim made a number of different formulas to deal with different kinds of mixtures. The basic rule for all of them we're going to see in the Mishnah is to divide the mixture into 2 equal parts, and then treat the first half as the stricter of the 2 in the mixture and the second half as the other. However, we have a problem. Since the second half really is going to have some of the stricter component, we have to adjust to that half to permit it to use. Basically, we're going to explain the formulas right now in the Mishnah. The first case, when we have an equal mixture of tevel and chulin. Mea tevel, mea chulin. Again, very cryptic. If a person has 100 measures of tevel that became mixed with 100 measures of chulin, and we give the Mishnah gives an example. The Mifarshim give an example. 100 lugin. Again, lug is a way to measure liquids. Liquids are easy to mix together. Therefore, the Mishnah is going to deal with liquids, and he can't simply separate the masrot from it. Why? Because some of the parts that he takes out could be chulin, and again, chulin cannot be used to exempt tevel. The simplest thing in the following case would be just to take other tevel that's vade and separate from it for the mixture he has here. The Mishnah is talking about a case where he has no other tevel, therefore he has to deal with the mixture itself. So again, mea tevel, mea chulin. If you have 100 mixtures of tevel, for example, 100 lugin of tevel, wine, that fell into 100 lugin of chulin wine, and now the owner wants to tie the tevel in the mixture so he's able to drink the wine. Notel mea ve'echad. The Mishnah says he takes out from the mixture 100 lugin, treats it as tevel, and then he takes out 1 lug from the other 100 in order to permit that 100 as well. Now again, Rabotai, very cryptic. We're going to have to explain based off the Mefarshim. What's the case? 100 lugin of tevel fell inside. Now you have to tie the 100 lugin. Now, even though the 100 lugin you remove are half chulin because it's all evenly mixed, I don't know what's tevel, I don't know what's chulin, it's wine. He could still separate all the masrot he needs from the entire mixture from these 100 lugin in one basket. I'm sorry, in one of the containers that you have, except for one. For this, he has to separate an extra lug from the 100, like we're going to explain right now. Basically, the 100 you removed, you're going to treat that you're treating as tevel. You're going to tithe like you would any other tevel. So you separate 10 lugin as maaser rishon, give it to the Levi. Another 9 lugin as maaser sheni, which you're going to redeem. So you have a total of 90 lugin in the first half that is permitted to use. Again, the Mefarshim point out, when I give the Levi the 10 lugin, the Levi has to separate 1 lug of this as Tumat Maaser, give it to the Kohen. Our Mishnah is speaking about tevel, that the Turma was already separated. The only thing you have left is Maaser Rishon, Tumat Maaser, Maaser Sheni. That's why we skipped Turma. Now, after you separated the 10 lugin of Maaser Rishon and gave it to the Levi, you have 90 lugin left. Now, he designates 9 of these 90, 10% as Maaser Sheni. He redeems it, so that's mutar. He doesn't actually have to separate the Maaser Sheni. He could verbally designate it since he's redeeming it. Now, since he doesn't have to remove the Maaser Sheni from the mixture, he designates 9 lugin of real tevel as Maaser Sheni, wherever these 90 lugin are, and now he fulfills his Maaser Sheni obligation for the entire mixture, including the wine, in the second half, in the second barrel. Now, he also has to do something to fix the other 100 lugin that he has, because that's also tevel. Again, it's mixed. So he verbally designates 10 of them as Maaser Rishon, and then he takes 1 out as Tumat Maaser. That's the extra one that we spoke about earlier. The rest of the Maaser Rishon he keeps himself. He doesn't have to give to the Levi, because the Levi already got his share of the 10 lugin from the first 100 lugin. Since he already separated Tumat Maaser from it, anybody can have it, so he can keep the extra Maaser Rishon and use it himself. There's also no need to designate Maaser Sheni from these 99 lugin, because I was also taken care of when you tied the first 100. Now he can drink these 99 lugin as well. So as a result of the entire process, you end up being able to drink 189 of the 200 lug in the mixture, just one lug less than what you would have been able to use if you would have tied it before it became mixed. Because let's say you would have tied it before it became mixed, what would have happened? 10 lugin would have went to the Levi, which would have left you with 90. The Maaser Sheni you would have redeemed and used. That plus the 100 lugin of chulin, which would have been part of the mixture, it would have added to 190. So as a result, what are you using? You would have been able to use 189 lugin, which is 90 plus 99 instead of the 190. So you're one lug off. You basically lost one lug by having it when it became mixed. Now, the second case is going to give an equal mixture of tevel and maaser rishon. The first case we said was tevel and chulin. Now we're going to discuss tevel and maaser rishon. Mea tevel, mea maaser. Again, if 100 lugin of tevel became mixed with 100 lugin of maaser rishon, the terumat maaser wasn't separated yet from it. Notel mea ve'echad. In this case also, what do? You take out 100 lugin and treat it as tevel. You take out one lug from the other 100. Just like the previous case, the 100 that you treat as tevel, you tithe like any other tevel, meaning 10 lugin, you take out as maaser rishon, give it to the Levi. The Levi then separates one of these 10 as terumat maaser, gives it to the Kohen. Then you designate another 9 lugin as maaser sheni, redeem it. 90 lugin are now yours to keep. However, the other 100 lugin, which you're treating as maaser rishon, also have tevel. So how do you fix it? You separate one lug to treat it as terumat maaser, like you did in the previous case. This takes care of the tevel concern. Why? Because now it's considered like chulin mixed with maaser rishon, basically. As long as you took out the terumat maaser, the tevel concern is like the previous case, so the following is going to be enough. All you have left is 99 lugin, which is maaser rishon. Separate from them another 9.9 lugin, which is 1/10 of 99, as terumat maaser. Give the rest to a Levi. Now, as a result, the Kohen ends up with 11.9 lugin of terumat maaser, and the owner only loses 9/10 of a lug because of the mixing, because the math is like this according to the Rab. The Kohen received 11.9 lugin as terumat maaser, one lug from the first half of the mixture, the 100 lugin of tevel, 10.9, which is 1 plus 9.9 from the second half of the mixture, the 100 lugin of maaser rishon. If it would have not been mixed together, the Kohen would have received only 11. 1 from the 100 lugin of tevel, and 10 from the 100 lugin of maaser rishon. Now that they're mixed together, he got 0.9 lug more. Now the owner basically lost 0.9 of a lug, 0.9 of a lug because of the mixture. Again, because since we're treating one of the piles as maaser rishon and it's 100, you're going to have to give 10 of that to the Kohen. Now the third case we're going to discuss is when you have an equal mixture of chulin and maaser rishon. Mea chulin mitukanin, mea maaser. If you have 100 lug of fixed chulin, meaning chulin that's from all tithe, basically the chulin was all tithe. It's produce from which all the tithes were separated, right? That's why we're calling it chulin, fixed. So you have 100 lugin of fixed chulin. It became mixed with 100 lugin of maaser rishon, which the terumat maaser for the Kohen wasn't separated yet. Again, what do? Notel mea ve'eser. The Mishnah now says you take out 100 lugin, treat them as maaser rishon, and you also take out 10 lugin from the other 100. The 100 lugin you're treating as maaser rishon, so you're tithing it like any other maaser rishon and giving to the Kohen 10. Separate 10 as terumat maaser, give it to the Kohen, since we're treating it like maaser rishon. Now, however, the 100 lugin that we're treating as chulin also have maaser rishon inside because it was mixed. So you have to separate from them 10 lugin again of terumat maaser. Why? Because since we're treating the chulin part of maaser rishon in regard to terumat maaser, you have to again separate 10 to give to the Kohen. Regarding other matters, we treat it like chulin. You don't have to give the other 90 lugin to a Levi. You can keep it and use it yourself. So now again, the 100 lugin that you're treating as chulin also could have maaser rishon, so you separate 10 lugin as terumat maaser. Now, as a result of the whole process, what you have, 20 lugin became terumat maaser for the Kohen, 90 lugin are given to the Levi as maaser rishon, and the owner keeps the other 90 lugin for himself. The owner ends up losing 10 lugin. Why? Again, the math is, let's say the maaser rishon and the chulin were not mixed together. The owner would have given 100 lugin of maaser rishon to the Levi, who would have separated 10 lugin as Terumat Maaser, given it to the Kohen, leaving him with 90. The owner would have kept all 100 lugin of chulin for himself. Now, because they became mixed, he only ends up keeping 90 because we took 10 out from the chulin pile, since it might have had Maaser Rishon inside of it. Now, the fourth case is going to discuss Tebel and Maaser Rishon of unequal amounts. Now it becomes a little more difficult. Mea Tebel Tishim Maaser. Let's say you have 100 lugin of Tebel that were mixed with 90 lugin of Maaser Rishon. They're not equal now. Or Tishim Tebel Ushmoni Maaser, 90 lugin of Tebel mixed with 80 lugin of Maaser Rishon. Lo Yifsid Klum. The owner has not lost anything. Why? The Mishnah explains, and the Mepharshim say he does not have to separate any more tithes than he would have had to separate had the Tebel and the Maaser not become mixed. Why? Since in both of these cases there are at least 10 more lugin of Tebel than Maaser Rishon, the owner can separate Terumat Maaser from the extra Tebel and avoid the loss. And the Rav explains like this. Let's say you have a case where the mixture has 190 lugin, 100 of Tebel and 90 of Maaser Rishon. The owner only has to remove 19 lugin. These 19 are made up of 10 lugin of Tebel and 9 lugin of Maaser Rishon. He designates the 10 lugin of Tebel as Maaser Rishon for the other 90 lugin of Tebel in the mixture, so that all 19 you removed are now Maaser Rishon. Then he takes 10 lugin from these 19 as Terumat Maaser for all the Maaser in the mixture. This is what you would have given as Terumat Maaser, even if the Tebel and Maaser Rishon didn't become mixed. 90 lugin from the 90 of Maaser, 9 lugin, from the 90 of Maaser Rishon, and 1 from the 100 of Tebel. The owner does not lose anything. The Mishnah now basically summarizes this last ruling when it's an uneven mixture. Zaklal, this is the rule. Korzman she'tebel merubeh. As long as the Tebel in the mixture is more than the Maaser Rishon by at least 10 lugin, lo yifsid klum, the owner has not lost anything. And the Rav explains, if you look at the Rav and the Tosfot Yom Tov, they explain that even though the procedure that we said in the previous case could have been used in the second case as well, the Chachamim did not allow it, except where the Tebel exceeds the Maaser by at least 10 measures. If it does not, they required him to use the procedure of the second case and bear the loss of the extra Terumat Maaser. That is the end of today's Mishnah. Rabotai, Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen v'Amen.